And joining us live to discuss this and take it further. Remember, we're talking about the Air India story, the victimization of whistleblowers, but also about the larger issue of the Whistleblowers Bill and whether it will even begin to protect real whistleblowers. Joining me in the studio right now, Anjali Bharadwaj of the National Campaign for the People's Right to Information, a well-known activist in her own right. Also with us is Anjan Deveshwar, former senior engineer with Kingfisher and a person who has spoken out about whistleblowers in airlines in the country being victimized by company management. Also with us is Pankaj Upadhyay, who's been reporting on this story. First, I want to put things into context for our viewers to give them a sense of just how important the Whistleblowers Bill really is. Remember, this is a bill that has been one of the 6 bills that has been a pet project for Rahul Gandhi. The Whistleblowers Bill is one of the 6 bills waiting to be passed in this very session. But till that happens, there will be many who will continue to be hounded and harassed and intimidated. And like in the case of Satyendra Dubey, everyone remembers him. He was murdered in 2003 for exposing corruption in the National Highway Authority of India's Golden Quadrilateral projects. Then there was S. Manjunath. He was also murdered for stealing a petrol pump that was selling adulterated fuel. Haryana IAS officer Ashok Khemka, who can forget him? He was transferred for cancelling alleged irregular land deals between Robert Vadra and DLF. And finally, UP IPS officer Anand Swaroop has been transferred 38 times in the last 18 years for taking on the political top brass in the state. Uma Shankar, a 1990 batch IAS officer who unearthed the cremation shed scam in Madurai, was suspended for taking on the very powerful Maran family as well. I want to put my first question right now to Anjan Deveshwar, who's with us live, to give us a perspective on what's happening at Air India. Anjan, you know, the people at Air India who've spoken out at this time about the irregularities going on in that company are living in fear, because who else is ever going to speak out about what's going on in Air India, given what's happening to these whistleblowers, Anjan?
See, the condition of our country, especially Ministry of Civil Aviation, is full of apathy.
Yes.
You know, in 2012, Mr. Bharat Bhushan, who was the Director General of Civil Aviation at that time.
Yes.
Even he has raised the issue of Kingfisher Airline, so he was shown the door. So what to talk about the common man? If a Director General of Civil Aviation is not having an authority, we cannot talk about common men and their security.
Okay, Pankaj Upadhyay, Pankaj, can you give us a quick update before I go to Anjali on what's happening in this particular case, and then we'll get a broader perspective from Anjali. What's happening in this particular case with these whistleblowers at Air India, Pankaj, at this time?
Now, Shiv, this matter is really going from bad to worse. A 48-hour deadline has been given by this particular association to the CMD, saying if within 48 hours you fail to register a FIR against all the corrupt officials within Air India who are allegedly hand in glove with the DGCA, then this association themselves will register an FIR. Now, at the same time, this association has told headlines today that Air India is telling this association that DGC has complained.
Okay.
That these fellows lodged a letter and gave a complaint as well. But then this association says that Air India has not just mutilated the contents, but they are fabricating the contents as well to show these people in bad light, which of course puts their safety in a lot of risk as well. And Shiv, mind you, this story is not just about Air India, it is not just about DGCA, it is about the entire aviation sector.
Yes.
If the Indian politicians thought that diplomatic wrangling could win them any points, then the grade 2 has already shown where we stand as far as our diplomacy is concerned. Now the biggest danger staring on our faces that after FAA, we might have the European regulators that might downgrade us.
Okay, Pankaj.
If we have International Civil Aviation Organization as well downgrades us, it's going to be yet another embarrassment.
It's not just the aviation sector. We're talking about every single sector, every walk of life, every government department in the country that stands to be affected by this kind of, default aggressive behavior by companies, by departments, by agencies against their own employees when they, try and sort of raise the red flag on corruption. Anjali Bharadwaj is with us. Anjali, there are 2 issues here. A, that as things stand right now, whistleblowers risk virtually everything by raising the red flag on corruption. And B, which is even more disturbing, is that the whistleblowers bill, which is being pushed in parliament by this government, by Rahul Gandhi specifically, as some kind of a, an elixir against, of protection for all whistleblowers in the country, may not actually be that. What do you think?
Absolutely. Let me just first clarify that whistleblowers in our country today, the traditional definition of a whistleblower doesn't stand anymore, because traditionally whistleblowers were people within the system who were privy to information and could therefore blow the whistle on corruption or any kind of inefficiency. Today, with the right to information law, every citizen in this country, every 1.2 billion people in this country are in fact potential whistleblowers. And we are seeing that it's not just people within the system today, but also people who are filing right to information applications to access information and file complaints now, who are being targeted and are putting everything at risk. Let me first say that the Whistleblower Protection Bill, which is in Parliament right now, is sorely needed.
Yes.
The one good thing that the law does is that it recognizes the fact that every citizen is a potential whistleblower and therefore needs protection if they blow the whistle. There are several problems, let me however add.
Yes.
The first problem is the fact that Parliament refuses to function. We've just seen this bill since 2010 has been hanging in the Parliament.
Yes.
Now in the Rajya Sabha since 2011. All that it requires is that some amendments be brought in to strengthen the provisions of this bill.
Yes.
And this bill needs to be passed so that all these whistleblowers, more than 30 of them have been killed in the last few years. They all could have been, a lot of their deaths could have been prevented if this bill existed. Now, the problems in the bill which you have referred to, I think the real problem is that there is no definition, clear definition of victimization.
Yes, exactly. That's what we said. Yeah.
Yes. It does provide for anonymity if somebody seeks it. If a whistleblower says that I do not wish my identity to be revealed, there are very strong provisions in the current bill to not reveal their identity, to remain, for them to remain anonymous, and there are penal provisions if their identity is revealed. However, in the case of victimization, we feel that the definition of victimization needs to be clearly included.
That is one of the problems, yes.
It is a big problem. The second problem that exists is that there needs to be a penalty imposed on somebody who victimizes.
Okay.
Now, those two things and the fact that there need to be stipulated time frames within which complaints are acted upon.
Right.
These are the 2 or 3 limited amendments which, if they are debated, discussed and brought in.
The problem, of course, is that Parliament isn't even functioning. There's no scope for debate. There's no scope for discussion to actually make this a very effective legislation. All of the points that Anjali just mentioned, plus the systemic fear that exists within people who even have the impulse to expose corruption within the system, highlighted in this story that has been revealed exclusively by Pankaj Upadhyay. Devesh, I'll give you Anjan, I'd like to give you the last word. Go ahead, 10 seconds.
See, what I want to say about the bureaucrats and officers, those who discharge their duty, there should be special protection for them other than the common man.
Yes. Okay, there needs to be protection, there need to be checks and balances. As Anjali pointed out, it's a good thing that this bill is in Parliament, but if it's not allowed to be passed through, what's the point? There are several points that need to be debated. There is scope for improvement, there are scope for amendments, but if it doesn't even get passed, doesn't even get debated, then what's the point of this bill at all? The story that we've put forward only highlights A, the requirement of a law of this kind, and B, a discussion on making it a really effective and enforceable law in this country, one that India desperately needs. Anjali Bharadwaj, Anjan and Pankaj, thanks very much for joining us, giving us your perspective on this story.